What's happening, everybody? You are now tuning in to the Producer's Corner with Spud Too Tight. The show will be geared towards upcoming and seasoned music producers to share and educate each other about what tools to use and what steps to take to become an industry standard music producer. And for those of you that would like to contact me for questions and suggestions, contact me, spudtootigt@gmail.com. And man, do I have a show for y'all today. The last couple of episodes, I've been speaking a lot upon my musical influences, what influenced me as a musician, as a keyboard player, producer, and I had the distinct pleasure of interviewing one of my musical influences, and that's Mr. George Duke. And I'm telling you guys, it was amazing speaking to him one-on-one for a half hour. I mean, it was a life-changing experience for me. And, you know, because George Duke is somebody who I just really admire as a keyboard player and as a producer and as an artist. And working with as many artists as he did in different genres is just amazing to me. I mean, just the different styles of music that he covers in his production, let alone his own music. I mean, it's seriously, for me, coming up in the game as a keyboard player and a producer, he's definitely somebody I just really leaned on as overall musician, as a producer, because, you know, when you listen to George Duke, I mean, he has so many different sides to him. I mean, there's something that I think every player can pick up something from him. I mean, it's not just jazz that he has, man. He has the funk background. He has the R&B background. I mean, George can go anywhere he wants to musically. I mean, he's that prolific of an artist and a player. You know, pretty much to generate anything that comes out of his mind, it's going to happen. And, you know, that's why I've leaned on him and listened to him so long coming up as a player. It's almost like I had to. You know, I knew that there was a certain level of playing that I wanted to achieve as a player. I wanted to be at a certain level as a keyboard player, and, you know, just listening to basic R&B, sometimes you're not going to be able to, you know, get too many chops to add to the arsenal. I mean, you have some really good foundation chords, and it really depends who you listen to also. You know, I don't want to classify any music to be one-sided, but predominantly, you know, what I wanted to do as a player, I really wanted to get into really heavy chord progressions, runs, really building my dexterity as a keyboard player so I can play different styles of music, from gospel to jazz to R&B, and also to be able to make my instruments come alive as a player. You know, I do have a background as a multi-instrumentalist. I do play guitar and bass, so having that ear, having that background allows me to make my instruments come alive as a keyboard player. At least I try to do it to the best of my ability. And listening to George Duke has definitely helped me achieve those goals, because he does. He becomes those instruments, whatever he's playing. I mean, I've heard him play bass solos on the keyboard. I've heard him play guitars on the keyboard. You know, and get into his chops and just on the Fender Rose and just the synths. You know, his leads are just amazing. I mean, again, it's something that every time I listen to his music, it always keeps me striving to become a better player. You know, I feel like I'm never done. You know, that journey is still going, and I'm still learning from him as we speak. You know, after the interview, you know, I went back and put up my old catalog of George Duke, man, and, you know, seriously, without sounding biased, because I know I am in a lot of ways, but seriously, he's just that great of an artist and player to me. You really can't go wrong with a lot of the tracks that I listen to and I found on the CDs. And, you know, again, those are my tools for learning. When I feel like I'm getting stagnant as a player, I can always pull out the CDs of George Duke and pull something from it that I haven't heard before, maybe I didn't pay attention to, and try to add it to my arsenal. And, you know, again, I tell everybody who's around me, and they know, I say, man, you know, practicing takes time. You know, if you really want to learn that craft and you really want to be a great player, you got to put the time in. I mean, it's great because it's a learning process, and I think as a player, I'm always looking for new stuff to learn. You know, especially something that's gonna, you know, that I have to really exercise daily. Some things, you know, some runs and some chords you're going to catch, you know, right on the whim and right away, but some of them depending on the arrangement and the timing, is going to take a little bit more time. And also building your dexterity as a player is going to improve also, because different chops requires different attacks and different timing. And, repetition is going to create perfection along the way. So again, I'm definitely a disciple of his keyboard style of playing. I mean, it's totally amazing. And all the tracks that you hear during the interview will be George Duke. Those are all his covers that he's created. And, I just thought it was just great, man, putting that compilation together for the interview. It definitely brought back a lot of memories of when I purchased the CDs and, still on that high buzz of his new CDs coming out. So gonna play the interview, man. You guys sit back and enjoy it. And again, it's a great interview. I'm sure you guys will have a great time listening. And I'll follow up after the interview for some insights and thoughts on it.
What's happening, everybody? You're now tuning in to the Producer's Corner with Spud Too Tight. And man, I have an extravagant show for you today. The last couple of episodes, I was giving you guys a little background on my influences, and I mentioned George Duke as being the messiah for keyboard playing for me. And today we have Mr. George Duke on the show. Everybody, ladies and gentlemen, welcome George Duke to the Producer's Corner with Spud Too Tight.
Hello, hello.
Man, George, what have you been up to, man? Just give me a little bit of, background of what you've been doing the last couple of years up until now. I know I've been hitting your website pretty frequent, pretty much every day, and I noticed that you're getting a new CD that's coming out.
Well, I'm gonna actually. I think the next thing that I do will be a live DVD. I cut some footage in Prague about 2 or 3 months ago, and then I did played about 3 hours at the Montreux Jazz Festival, and brought in some extra musicians, and just cut a lot of music, live just to see what would happen. So I got a live DVD that'll be coming out hopefully before the end of the year. The one that I did in Prague probably will only come out there, but I'm working on that right now.
Oh, nice.
And I'm also producing an album for Everett Harp, who's a great saxophonist. He's doing a jazz record this time. A real jazz record. So we're looking forward to that. Among other things, been out touring.
Oh, man.
With Shaka Khan, actually, doing some other kind of dates with her.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, man, Shaka, man, she's beautiful, man. I love her voice. I'm only 34 years old, just to give you a heads up, but my background in music, man, I definitely can go back to the 70s, the 80s, and all the way up to current, man, so I definitely have a pretty good background of the 70s crew, even when she was with Rufus.
Oh, yeah.
So, I could definitely go back a couple of albums, and, looking at your career, George, man, it's definitely inspiring for me, being that you're an artist, a musician, a producer, and a musical director. And, how is it, giving you the direction to keep those, titles balanced, with all the politics and, just demands of the business? How are you able to maintain the schedule of all those the titles that you have?
Well, I always thought that a career, at least for me, was much like investing in the money market. You don't put all your eggs in one basket. I wanted to be able to write, to compose. I wanted to be able to produce. I wanted to be able to do movie scores. I thought, without spreading myself too thin, where I didn't think my talents existed, where they lied, I felt that I needed to distribute this out a little bit, and so I decided to kind of be every man, every musician. And that's kind of what I did. I figured that piano playing wasn't enough. There's a lot of great pianists out there, and a lot of them are making a good living. Some of them are not.
Right.
Some that probably play the keys off of me. But the point is if one thing goes down, then I have some eggs in another basket. And so the only thing that happened during my career is that the production kind of overshadowed me as an artist for about 15 or 20 years. And I just became a producer. I rarely went on the road. Went out a couple of times a year, played a few places, but mainly I was in the studio one act after another. And now that's changed.
Right.
I'm going back out and I'm doing more touring, which was the reason I got in the business in the first place, was to play live for people and try to touch them right away.
Right. For me, that's